Welcome, everyone. We are here at the We Are Developers Conference in Berlin. I'm here with Thomas, CEO of Entire, right? And please,
Francesco?
I am Francesco Ciulla, Head of Developer Relations at Zerops, also a public speaker. I create a lot of content. I stay too much time on Twitter. So welcome, Thomas. And yeah, also, please introduce yourself for people who don't know you. I'm not sure that there are many people, but do it anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm Thomas. I'm from Berlin originally. I grew up here, but I have lived here for over 20 years. I'm known for being the CEO of GitHub, which I was from 2021 to 2025. If you're old enough, you may also remember me from Hockey App, which was my first startup that got acquired by Microsoft in 2014. And since summer last year, I'm building a new company with many amazing folks that some of them are here at WeAreDevs called Entire. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now I'm about to ask something that would have sounded very weird like 5 years ago. Do you actually read the code that the AI generates?
I'd say maybe like 3% of the time. Like I think I've mostly given up on it, and it's like just write me the code and then say review the code. Ask Codex. Thought should ask Codex to review. I try more this kind of loop approach where tell it, well, do multiple loops with Codex until you kind of like have negotiated something that you both agree with. I'd say, every now and then, especially when similar to, I think, how we read Twitter, is that you have it like in your peripheral vision. You see it scrolling through and something's interesting, like a picture or like, an avatar of somebody and you want to read them. I think it's the same with code that's coming through, scrolling through. There might be stuff where I'm like, hey, wait a second. It's hard coding the sample URL into the main code base. And I'm like, wait. That's not what we wanted to do here. We're supposed to pass the results. So I think there's still those scenarios, but the question points at something that I also alluded to in my keynote, which is very fast. We're moving humans reviewing every single line of code to humans reviewing how the agents collaborated with each other.
Yeah. It's interesting. For example, I coded an app and it's connected with your YouTube channel. And then I found out that every user would have been connected with my own YouTube channel, which doesn't make sense. It should be connected with yours, so I have to check. So sometimes I find out, I still use the search functionality to, for example, if it's something like not specific, it's hard coded. Of course, we would like to avoid that as much as possible. Yeah. Now let's talk about hosting, because I think that now we are sort of dependent from these hosting platforms. And of course, and if you're old enough, maybe you even deployed an app and you're on your own PC. Maybe some people, some young developers, they don't even know that this is actually possible. But what do you think that we are so dependent now from this, and what will happen, for example, if a hosting platform suddenly goes down? And it will, because it might happen.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think on the one side, we have gained a lot of convenience, through platforms like Vercel, Netlify, as many of them where I have the Vercel CLI installed and Superbase CLI, and so I can just tell the agent here, build the Next.js app, deploy to Vercel, migrate the schema or connect the data stream with Convex, use better auth, right? So I think on the one side, it's amazing how much I can get done without never having to think about any of that anymore. And it feels like, Lego blocks. I truly, right, which is it's Lego blocks. I'm not building them, I'm stacking them. And so I can stack all these services together. And I think you can, especially in the prototyping phase or in the startups very early and you're trying something and you don't know what sticks with customers, it's really powerful. I think the flip side is that you're making yourself dependent of a single region hosting, right? So that's the question of how can you host in multiple regions, US, Europe, Asia, Australia, and so on, or maybe even China. And how do you build for that from scratch, from the start? Because otherwise, it's always hard to move from a single tenant, single region solution to something that works around the world. And I think the other one is that there's a bunch of companies that are dominating our space. And so you have dependencies, on the three big hyperscalers and the model companies. And so when they are, for whatever reason, not able to deliver to you, like recently Anthropic, which couldn't give us Fable, to the disagreement with the US government, to frame it politely. Then the alternatives are missing, and especially here in Europe, the big question is how do we build a European ecosystem on the hosting side, on the cloud side, on the GPUs and data center side, and there starts in France, in Paris with Mistral, or here in Germany with the Deutsche Telekom, who has the AI factory in Munich. So there's starts of that, but I think there's a lot more to be done for Europe to win back its sovereignty and enabling European founders and European startups and researchers, of course, to build in Europe and with the US as a partner, not with the US as a dependency.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know that I work for a company that does exactly this. It's called Zerops, and it's a hosting platform. It's based in Europe, in Czech Republic. So we're also working on this. Yeah. Of course, there are big competitors, but I think we're doing quite well. I joined as a head of developer relations a few months ago. We built a team. Yeah. We are working with Sandbox and stuff. So nice.
If you think about automotive suppliers, right? Like an automotive manufacturer almost never buys everything from a single supplier. And of course, the suppliers themselves see each other as competitors.
Exactly.
And not every supplier makes airbags, not every supplier makes brakes or engine control systems or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they're outbidding in certain processes each other. But in most scenarios, they actually win together because the supplier, the factories need to have a supply chain that allows just-in-time delivery, just-in-time manufacturing, and as such, the competitors are also often partners and part of the same ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. And it's for the same reason that usually when we have a system, we don't have a single language or a single stack. Yeah. We have people who build apps for real. Yeah. They know that it's not just Node.js and a single framework. We have different frameworks, different versions of the frameworks all over the world, different services for different reasons that might happen. So should prompt and agent sessions live in the repo or not? This is a hot take.
The hot take, obviously, for us is Entire, given that we have been very public about that. We believe the session logs, the prompts, the intent, everything that you're feeding into the agent and its responses should live side by side with the code in the repository, or it should live in a sister repository, if you will, an adjacent repository, but linked to each other. That's a question more of data storage and size than technology. But there's a reason why we're putting source code into version control systems, right? And where we say every source code that you push to a repository is immutable; it cannot be changed after the fact. And there's obviously ways like force pushes and whatnot that allow you to override things, but many companies that have regulatory requirements or work with government or with finances, they don't allow any force pushes and they protect the main branch. And the same needs to be true for the session logs because they're effectively now the second most important artifact in software development. Code is the most important, session logs are the second most important artifact. And as such, you need to version them and protect them like an audit log, in a similar fashion. I think it should be in Git or in an equivalent store that allows you to have full traceability.
Nice.
Just
very convincing.
You said,
no, I think that the reason they really make sense, especially when we have to work with government and stuff. And if you'll be working with them, about because I've been working at the European Space Agency for a while, and they are very strict. Yeah. When there is something, if you want to change an NPM package, you have to ask. You need a sign from a hiring manager. So it really makes sense. So you're convincing. Nice.
Awesome.
Okay, one last question. What is the worst LLM generated code that ever happened to you, if you remember it?
The worst I remember was that I was working on an app that was kind of like a podcast catalog. And I was telling the agent to make a schema migration. And what it did, it put the names and the links of the podcast into the schema migration. So it hard coded basically what was the user input into the schema.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, these are just examples for you to figure out how to process these. That's example input. Instead, took it as in this is what Thomas wants in the database, which is obviously not. And I think this is does it right? The times of where AI writes truly broken code are over insofar as that it fixes itself in the next RAF loop. Right? It does these RAF loops, and as long as things are broken, it sees the compiler is failing more. The test is failing, so it fixes itself. So I think we have gone from the simple syntax errors that,
Yeah.
that for example, Copilot made 4 years ago. We've moved from there to the agent not understanding what you were trying to achieve and finding the right abstraction, within the task. I had other examples where it was running all night, and in the morning I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what did you actually do here? That's not what I wanted. And I told you so. And it's like, oh, I apologize. And I had some examples in the keynote this morning from, we have a Slack channel called Shit Our Agent Says.
Okay, cool.
To share that kind of like.
That's quite funny.
What about you?
But I think I tried to generate, I think it was something that also should have generated a video of someone saying something.
Yeah.
And the person was saying, I am generating a video. Like it's similar to what you have. So it used my input to say, create this video when a person says this. And the person says, in this video, I'm trying to generate this. So it's similar. It's very similar to what you had. And I
find the right.
Yeah, it didn't get at my input. It was the structure and not what you have to say. So similar.
But it's a good laugh,
So, yeah, it's funny, especially because it was a video. So yeah, thank you so much,
Well, thanks
Thomas,
so much.
and best of luck.
Great to meet
Best
you.
of luck.